I came to the conclusion that socialism could be achieved, not by one splurge of violence. But by the persistent political activities of the workers and the people. And so in order to participate in political activities in the effort to achieve socialism, I joined the Communist Party. In doing this, I got back into the labor movement and stopped being what I then had decided was anarchistic. Asterisk. As to the origin of the Communist Party, we will show here that there developed within the Socialist Party an organized left-wing movement until, by 1919, it was the majority of that party. At the Chicago Convention of the Socialist Party a split occurred. The left wing, ejected by the police, reorganized as the Communist Party. The left wing was the majority of the old Socialist Party. All of my socialist friends and associates were left-wingers. I was in great sympathy with them. By 1926, I had become convinced that the Communist Party was the logical inheritor of all the best traditions. History and struggles of the older socialist movement and of the WW, 2. I was ready to join the party and gave an application to Charles Ruthenberg. Then the secretary of the Communist Party, in 1926. Due to his sudden death a few weeks later during the most critical period of my own illness. That application was apparently lost. Anyhow, it was never presented to the party. I was ill of heart trouble in Portland, Oregon, At that time, while there, I was in constant touch with my old friends. Ellery Bleuer and Anita Whitney of California, both communist leaders. Naturally, my heart and mind, although I was ill, were deeply involved in the current political problems of the people. The menace of fascism in Europe, the great struggles of the unemployment led by communists foster, Amter. Minor, Dennis and others, and later the new unions which were present during the New Deal of President Roosevelt. Miss Whitney brought me a daily worker in the fall of 1935 with a speech by George Dimitrov. Called the United Front Against War and Fascism, which the government has stated it intends offering in evidence. This speech made a deep impression on me. We will show the character of communist work in the struggle against fascism in answer to this clarion call of Dimitrov, who died in 1949 as premier of his country. We will show the background of this speech, which is essential in order for you to understand its meaning and the intent with which I then joined the Communist Party. This was the time of the rise of fascism. Which we will show seemed very remote to most people in our country in the 30s. People laughed at Hitler and Mussolini as demagogues and mountebanks, but it caused great concern to the peoples of Europe. Especially to the communists in those countries directly affected or threatened. George Dimitrov was a Bulgarian communist who had been in exile in Germany, and while there was framed in the infamous Reichstag fire case. Asterisk. Dimitrov was freed. He took refuge in the Soviet Union. Where he delivered this speech in 1935 at the Congress of the Communist International. It is an eloquent and dramatic appeal to fight fascism, which he describes as the most vicious enemy of mankind. It is addressed to communists especially and other progressive people elsewhere. To put aside all immediate partisan or sectarian interest or differences or ultimate political aims to unite to stop fascism. We will prove that this is what is meant by united front. This policy brought communists together with all other honest and patriotic. People who were determined to save their country from the ravages of fascism. We will show that Hank Forbes, one of our party organizers who might otherwise be here as a defendant, lost his life at the Anzio beachhead in pursuance of that policy, as did hundreds of American communists in World War II. I resolved when I read this powerful appeal, here is where I belong. As soon as I am well I will again apply to join the Communist Party. I did so. William Z. Foster. Whom I first met in 1909 in the IWW, and Ellery Bleuer, whom I knew from the old Socialist Party. Presented my application in the winter of 1936 and 1937. It was accepted and publicly announced in the press. In my extreme youth I had affiliated myself with the non-political I. W. In my maturity I came back into the working class political movement of socialism. This may seem a very lengthy introduction. but I have tried to draw conclusions from my biography on the issues in this case. I did not intend it to be personal. But an explanation of how and why I became a communist. And I am an example, not an exception. Now, as to my official position in the Communist Party, which I gladly and proudly acknowledge they are a matter of public record. In 1938 I became and am today a member of the National Committee of the Communist Party. The National Committee was reduced in 1948 to 13. The other 12 members are William Z. Foster, our chairman, who has been seriously ill for several years, and my dear comrades. The 11 communist leaders convicted under the Smith Act, which they challenged as unconstitutional. I have also been chairman of the Women's Committee of the Communist Party since. (1945), which the evidence will show carries on struggle for equal rights for women in shops. Unions, and all organizations, even including our own party when necessary. My comrade, Claudia Jones, a defendant here, is the executive secretary. We have worked together, spoken together, written, and helped organize women for full equality. Both politically and economically, for the building of movements for peace, consumers' councils. Parent-teachers organizations, and similar organizations, for the unity of Negro and white women. And to overcome the exploitation of Negro women as workers, as women, as Negroes. Many articles which both of us have written on these subjects are featured in the government's list of exhibits. we will demonstrate to you how constructive and beneficial is the nature of our work among women. Inspiring them to greater self-confidence, greater comradeship with one another, greater participation in public affairs. The evidence will show further that we have urged the organization of women for political activity. Not only on election day, but the year around, in hearings, delegations, petitions and statements to all legislative and public bodies on such issues as child care, better schools, better housing, a better standard of living, etc. We have written of the history of the women's movement in our country. Where every right we now enjoy has been won only by organized struggle, the right of women to vote. To serve on juries, protective labor legislation for women workers, mothers' pensions, and so forth. We have directed our sharpest criticism to the virtual disfranchisement of the Southern Negro women by force. And violence, and through the pool tax, discrimination against women in factories, lack of upbringing, etc. We have advocated socialism as a system of society best guaranteeing to women full equal rights in all spheres and ensuring to them the possibility of exercising these rights. I remind you again that we are not asking you to agree with us. But will prove to you that we have not been advocating force and violence, but, rather, a peaceful, happy world. I have also been chairman of the Defense Committee of the party since 1948. When our leaders previously referred to were arrested. The evidence will show that our duties, my duties, were to raise funds necessary for adequate legal defense. of our members who might be arrested under the Smith Act or held for deportation under the McCarran Act. Individual communists are not financially able to defend themselves. These duties are ours. Our duties were to publicize the facts in the case. Since newspaper coverage is notoriously inadequate and invariably prejudiced. To organized mass meetings, arrange tours for speakers, and generally call for public support for their defense. Asterisk. In addition, the government's list of documents which they told us they would introduce in this case or indicated they would introduce in this case. Makes clear to you, will make clear to you, that I am a columnist of the Daily Worker. This is correct. For 15 years, from 1937 to date, I have produced at least 2 columns a week. Besides many feature articles for the Sunday paper, The Worker. These are my personal columns and are not submitted to the editorial staff in advance. Praise or criticism comes from the readers. Some of my columns and articles are listed by the government as government's exhibits. Which they intend to introduce. If they are to prove my official position in our party or my tours around the country or that I spoke in any specific places or that I invited people to join the Communist Party. The government need not waste its time. I do not deny any of these things. The evidence will show that I asked people to join it. I believe in the party to which I belong. It is a legal party in my estimation devoted to the best interest of the people. and I would not belong to it if I would hesitate to ask any honest persons to join me. Hundreds did so at my invitation. I would be glad to make available to the jury at the appropriate time not just a few articles. Carefully culled for the government's purposes, but all of them dealing with a vast range of subjects.